to this session of our ZIPINAR. We call it ZIPINAR because we try to give in as much as we can in the 1 hour that we ask you to spend with us. How do we do that? We invite the best that we know in the community around the world. Speakers join from India, from Europe, from Nigeria, from Mexico. So there has been almost many countries that speakers have been gracious enough to join this platform, Let Us Talk It, where we try to bring in new topics, new ideas, and share with the community. It's completely free for everyone. And we do this every Wednesday from 12 p.m. EST, US time. And we are especially thankful for our India speakers who stay up late at night. It's almost 10:30 at night. But still they are excited and they want to share their knowledge with all of us. And from our part, what we can do is join the webinar, learn something. If you have questions, talk to the speakers in the interaction session at the end of their speech. So we have two topics today that we will be covering. One is how to create branding using technical expertise, and this will be given by Mike Netter. And second, we have from India, the speaker, Dr. Sapna Agarwal, and she will be talking about what is being an entrepreneur. It's been widely used. The startups are starting up in huge quantities, but what it is and what it takes to be an entrepreneur would be our second topic. So to go with the first topic, we have Mike with us, who will be talking about how to create branding using technical expertise, using social media, website, interpersonal skills, cost per touch with emails, and many more. And a little bit about Mike. He is a veteran of distribution, sales, and marketing. He has served in senior executive roles at Corporate Express and Staples, both multinational office products firms. He is now applying his business expertise to state politics to create a powerful team of volunteers and allied organizations to further the cause of conservatism in the state of California. Using the power of social media, Mike helped spearhead the effort to recall Gavin Newsom, the largest invective and volunteer effort in United States history. So we have a lot of things to learn from Mike, I'm sure. Absolute honor to have you, Mike. Over to you.
Well, thank you. And for everybody out there, yes, I'm indeed Mike Netter. Over here on California's left coast, as we like to say it. So while it's late for India, it's early for me, kind of, sort of. By way of introduction, if you're not familiar with US politics, don't worry about it. The main crux of what I want to talk about today is how you, as an individual, can have a massive effect using technical expertise to expand the world and really make an impact. And this is important to know. So to get you familiar a little bit with what I've been doing, again, I'm on stage, I'm on TV, I'm on radio, I'm on a lot of things. But the reality is this: a small group of us in California, a state of 40 million in a country of 360 million, decided about 1.5 years ago that we wanted to be disruptors, change the way that things are going. And that's important if you're listening out there, because anybody can be a disruptor. I have a pretty good history in doing various things that I'll get to, but it's important to note that anybody out there can be a disruptor. And disruption is the nature of you're starting a company as an entrepreneur or starting a political movement. Now, again, by way of introduction, as I was so adeptly introduced, the recall of Gavin Newsom was the largest initiative in American history, second only worldwide to Brexit. And it's actually the largest volunteer in American history. And again, second in the world and a close second to Brexit. That's important to note because politics is marketing and most people don't really view it that way. But let's start, because I'm speaking to a different kind of audience today, with a couple benign concepts. My background, as I studied in college, back in the Stone Ages, if you will, was in computer science, sales and marketing, and I learned to become a public speaker and a bit of a radio host. That's important to note because most of you out there, especially if you're young listening to this, think computers are the get all end all. And one of the things that changed my life was way back when, and you should look this up, was a speaker that I heard who was a Nobel Peace Prize winner or Nobel Prize winner in math. They gave a great speech on a book called Bright Mind, Brilliant Fire. And most of you out there think of computers as being this wonderful thing, and indeed they are. But they're just a reflection of our human personality. And that's really important to note. Computers think linearly. They're zeros and ones at their base. And whether I talk about social media, emails, or anything else where you want to make an effect, get out of your mind that you are less than a computer. Human beings think geometrically. That's important to note. What do I mean by that in the basic sense in this short time is this. A computer has to be programmed to associate any two things. Human beings, you could smell a flower, it could make you think of someone that you used to date. You could see a random bird, it might remind you something a long time ago in your lifetime. So everything about you is interrelated to your experience. That's called thinking geometrically. And that's very important when it comes to marketing, whether it's politics or office products that I grew up in. Now, office products was important when I grew up in office supplies, where it grew into a multinational company, et cetera, because it touched every human being in every corporation with a common denominator called a pen, if you will, but it became part of the common human experience. So remember, again, that you think geometrically, and when you apply your things, your strategies, and another term, if you're watching this, I want you to really think about is something I call strategic to transactional, I'm going to talk about today. Geometric is strategy. So when you think of something, have a precipitating event, and I'll get back to that in 1 second, you say, well, this would be a good idea. I'd like to change this. I'd like to be a disruptor, just like we started the largest political movement in the United States. And many of you out there have great ideas every day. Remember that everything you do starts with an idea that I call a precipitating event. Boy, wouldn't it be better to do this? Wouldn't it be better to have a better way to get to this or do this? That's great. But all strategy has to be turned into transactional, executable steps. And that's kind of where the meat of my talk today really gets into it. So for everybody out there, understand you're as smart as everybody else. The dumbest person you know, and we all know some pretty dumb people, don't we? The dumbest person you know is smarter geometrically than the Cray supercomputer. But the supercomputer, or things like social media, websites, all the other things I talk about, are simply faster in the way that they think of things. But it's up to you as an individual to geometrically think of a precipitating event, have that moment of clarity, if you will, and then learn how to execute it using the technology that we have today. So one of the things that's really important to note when we started this movement in California, and frankly, long time ago, and I'm going to do something I don't normally do, I'm close to 65, okay? So I've been greenfielding, as we like to call it, stuff or things my entire life, be it in a small computer industry, be it playing baseball, be it in politics. So everything you do starts small. But the reality is when you start small, you don't start with a lot of resources. And so I'll get back to that in a few minutes, but understand first you have to have your strategic idea. And whether it's in politics or whether it's, again, in whether you want to sell something or create something, start with your idea and then say, how can I make my idea executable? Now let's talk about that a little. And as a confession for you, I stole some of this from Steve Jobs, okay? And why is that important to know? Because the center of your idea we call branding. Look, we've called different things. We used to call them logos. Now we call them branding. We used to call them flyers. Now we call them collateral. So everybody thinks they're reinventing stuff as time goes on. The reality is the initial brand is something that's very important. Everything that you do out there in using technology to drive to your geometrical idea has to be to drive people to your brand for action. Let's think about that. Why do I talk about Apple and Steve Jobs? And I wanted to tell you today where I learned things from. So in the short time that I have to give you a lifetime of information, you can go look up things. So again, Bright Mind, Brilliant Fire teaches the difference between geometrical thinking and linear thinking. And if you want to read the biography of Steve Jobs, forget he was a grumpy, weird engineer. Understand what he created with Apple. And you can duplicate that without the resources everywhere you go. Think about this. You don't buy an Apple phone. You don't buy an Apple computer. What? You don't buy an Apple iPad. What you're really buying is the brand. Just like when you go to Nike, you're not buying the shoe, you're buying the brand. So one of the most important things to create that in today's world you can create relatively inexpensively is a website written in the right technical language. I'm not going to make this a technical call today. That is your brand. And before you do anything else, you've got to create a brand and an action for that brand. Again, you think of Apple, you think of Nike as logos that drive people, and you immediately know what their cause is, whether it's to buy a pen, whether it's to vote somebody out of office, you have instant recognition what their cause is. So that's the strategy, is your cause. The transaction, in this case, starts with a website. And when you do something in a website, you have to make it in today's planet dynamic and entertaining. Now, that seems rather obvious, Netter. Thanks for telling me that. But how many times have you looked at a website absolutely hideous and boring? And you ask people, well, how's your website? Great. I set it up a year ago, and I've been waiting for people to come. So it's important to note that your brand has to be dynamic and entertaining. And if you're going to drive people to a store, which is a website, there better be something in that store that you want to shop for. And you've all been there, a part of the common human experience. And I don't care if it's India, Russia, China, New York City, or Los Angeles. If you go to a store and they have the same stuff, it becomes boring to you. So again, all the times, use your brain to put something in your website that will make your ideas dynamic. Video is a really good way to do it. And I've got to tell you, I'll do deference to the current one I'm on now, make your videos short and entertaining. And don't be afraid to put out there in short sound bites, both verbally and in video, and rotate them, things that will drive people back to your brand. This is inexpensive to do. And when I grew up, back when the camera was invented, if you will, it was very expensive to do these things, right? We're doing this multinational broadcast today, if you think about it, with a computer, $100 camera, and a company called Zoom, right? So I could reach millions of people around the world, which 40 years ago, you had to fly or try to call them on the phone. So today, the technology to execute it is inexpensive, but don't be afraid to be bold and innovative and take advantage of that technology. One of the technologies to drive people to your brand that we specialize in is social media. And social media is misunderstood, misused, et cetera, et cetera. Let me explain the first thing that's wonderful about social media. It's free. Yes, indeed, you heard. It's free. Yes, so as much as people bitch about Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and all these things, it's free. And you're able to contact a large number of people and get something done to drive them to your brand. You're not driving them to Facebook. Facebook is its own brand. You're driving them to your brand. So let's talk about that for a second. A couple of the differences in basic social media. People talk about Facebook. I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 of them today, and only 3 or 4. And everything else, it is a deviation of it. First off, know your audience. Don't pay for ads on social media. That seems to become really popular. Well, I'm going to go out and spend a bunch of money on social media ads. Hold on. Start with free and see how it works. And if you want to see, I know I'm talking really fast. That's what I do. So slow down the tape later if you want to get back to this. But understand that on your website, to execute the transaction, you can see when you do something, how many people came to your website and clicked through and did something about it. I'm going to say that again. Most people who set up websites never look at their analytics board. You have to look at that to see when you do something on Facebook. Oh, look, I got 100 likes. Aren't I cool? Those 100 likes mean absolutely nothing unless you are driving to an executionable transactional strategy that you want them to accomplish, even if it's just to get meditative peace. If you want them to understand meditative peace by definition is an action that they need to take. If you want to sell a pen, it is an action that they need to take. Now, some of the quick differences in social media are this. Facebook is a linear social media. Use it as such, meaning that when you set up Facebook, there's groups and pages. Everybody sets up a page, but set up a group and go out and be aggressive to get people and make sure you put your brand at the top of the page. What I said, going out and getting people on social media is very important. People set it up and they don't invite people to do it. A group, which isn't as used as much in Facebook, brings people in and allows them to have discussions about what you want them to discuss. That is what we call a linear social media, meaning that here you bring people in and they talk like that. Twitter and some other ones are what we call exponential social medias, where you get somebody in and you get a follower. And that follower, okay, may have a lot of followers. So if they republish, but now we call them retweets, but basically if we republish that, someone republishes that, their followers, a percentage of them will look at that. Now, interestingly enough, I'm constantly surprised by the number of smart people that don't bother to explore the free analytics that come with Twitter and Facebook, and another powerful one where I was discovered today, which is LinkedIn. And I know there's Instagram, and I know there's TikTok, and I know there's a million others of them, but Facebook is still the biggest, whether you like it or not, as Gavin Newsom would say. Twitter is still one of the biggest, that's exponential. LinkedIn is kind of a combination of the features. And for everybody out there, if you want to accomplish something and bring in some sources, and please don't let this out, the secret out of this video, LinkedIn has something on it that most social medias don't. People have jobs. Yes, indeed. Most of the people on LinkedIn have jobs and resources. And although you say, well, I'm on LinkedIn and I've got like a lot of people following me and I don't know what to do with it. If you go to the top of LinkedIn, you will see that you can also geo-target, target by company, target by lots of specific factors where you can reach out to people and bring them in. And I'm going to say that again. If you're using social media for your brand, the website, which is the center of it, and you're not reaching out to people and bringing them in, you're wasting your time. Let's be really clear. You cannot, we always hear about the outliers, if you will. The outliers are, well, the presidents, the people that have 1 million followers. Only 3% of people on Twitter have over 500 followers. Go get them. Now, because I only think I have a half hour here, let me fast forward this spiel a little bit. That is a bunch of touches. Setting up a website, inexpensive. If you have technical questions, we could get to them at some other time. Driving them with social media is important. And another one to understand, when you do a marketing touch, if you have to pay for it, the wholesale cost of a marketing touch is about 0.012 cents. Yes, you heard correctly, 0.012 cents. So we use email a lot. You can email people randomly. You can text people, and I don't have the time to talk to it today. But anytime you evaluate something to drive people to your brand, again, be it politics, office products, meditation, right? You got to be able to drive from an inexpensive cost per touch. But hey, I just got funded with $1 million. Well, bully for you. Conserve that money and use it to reach more people. The problem we have in marketing today is that people make it mysterious and layer. So the person that buys it for 0.012 cents a touch. And email lists, by the way, are available all over the place. And many of you have to go, email, that's really old fashioned. Hey, all of you go on your email all the time, every day, and have this thing called a cell phone. You're in constant contact with it. Writing content is something else that has to do with your brand. But access to the transactional portion of it is inexpensive. So whether it's a text, whatever it is, your average cost has to be 0.012 cents. If you're dealing with somebody who is charging you more than that, you're not dealing with someone that's the provider. You're buying from the middleman. How would you like if I could sell you this calculator for $50 when the door next to me is selling it for $5? That's how most of you deal in marketing today. You take someone's word for it, but that's what it's cost. I'm telling you today, for anything that you start and you do, because you exponentially have to reach a lot of people, keep your cost per touch down. Email lists are easy to get, easy to procure, not that hard to execute if you have the technical expertise. We email about 4 million people a few times a month in California for a penny a touch versus the normal 6 to 12 cents a touch that's normally done in my space. So quickly, your brand, there's banner, there's native, there's all kinds of wonderful things that everybody will talk to you about. But to sum it up, because I believe I only have about 30 minutes, is that correct? Talking to the host? Will host
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I've got about 7 minutes to wrap it up here. I want to go again. Summing it up, really important. Remember, you're a geometrical thinker. If you want to be a disruptor, they used to call me a troublemaker in school. Now we call them disruptors. But if you want to be a disruptor and come up with something new, remember, your geometrical thinking, your random thoughts that you see in your head every day make you smarter than the Cray supercomputer. And also remember that those ideas that we call precipitating events are strategic, and you must execute them to transactional ideas to reach and grow whatever it is your passion is out there that you want to grow. In today's world, where we used to run around a street corner and yell, okay, I still do that because I'm in politics. But in today's world, a really good way is execute a website, which is inexpensive and easy to do. Rotate the information through your website so it's new and fresh and people want to come back to the store all the time. Remember to use things that are free and don't complain too much about them, and use them free and use them wisely. And just because they're free, study them. Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Study, study, study. Look at the features, that weird little button that you've never clicked on in the corner because, oh, it's a picture of a nice dog. You're distracted. Stay in tune with that. Use that social media not to drive people to other social media, but to your brand. Execute a strategy outside social media, because you're going to get the converts on social media when you've already reached where our groups reach, for example, to reach out to the other people that are the non-believers using email. In my case, I use radio. Radio's cheap, guys. Radio's free. Podcasts, like they're doing here, are relatively inexpensive. Start your own podcast. I don't know how. You have a computer, a camera, and a mouth? Start talking about when it passes you, and then push it out with email and social media and start posting and going out and pulling people in. push-pull marketing, the basic 101 of it. And most off, I want to leave you before my half hour is up with a philosophical thought. If you're not enjoying the journey that you're on, go a different journey, okay? If you're not, and remember, understand, we hear this a lot, enjoy the journey, because that's really important. There's a lot of really rich, unhappy people in this world. So if you're not passionate about what you're doing, your brand, and driving people to it, people unconsciously will pick up on that. So every step of the journey has to be important when it comes to entrepreneurship or anything else. Enjoy it. I'm really good, and we all are, at something that I don't like. Don't do it. Go find something that you care about, and that will come out in driving your brand. And understand, do that every day with a passion. And that passion will come forth, and don't have to spend a lot of money on it. Capital will come and you'll attract capital. Obviously, if I'm going to build calculators, it's going to take capital. But you better enjoy building calculators. You better enjoy bottling water or a pen. Because if you don't, that will tank your brand. Nobody works for money. It seems strange. Nobody makes money except the government. They print it. You do things which produce money, and that has to come across in your brand. So I'm delighted to talk to you all today as my time rolls to an end here. And let me tell you again that the journey of life. Follow me at NetterMike on Twitter. If you want to find out more about who I am and what I represent, go to rebuildcalifornia.com and find out more about our political ideas. I'm not asking you to agree with the political ideas. I'm asking you to see how we lay them out. And remember, at NetterMike, I'm Mike Netter on Facebook. Don't bombard me. I'm about at my limit. Rebuildcalifornia.com. And may the higher power that you appreciate bless you in your journey going forward and inspire you with the passion that you need to make the changes that need to be made in this world, because that precipitating event's going to come from here. Make it strategic to transactional. Thank you very much. And I believe that's about the end of my 30 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mike, for that very insightful discussion regarding branding and making use of the technical expertise. Now we go to our audience who would like to connect or ask questions or share their insights with regards to the topic. You can unmute your mic or raise your hand to share whatever you wanted to share with this discussion. Please feel free to do so.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for this session. And I really feel like a very few speakers will have then this kind of oration like to attract all kind of audience. And definitely, I think you are one of the that I have ever seen. And the session, the all your sessions, it's really enabled us, or it's giving the inputs to us, like how to change the way of in the social media, the way existing pattern of what we are thinking is, if you want something, if you want to achieve something, just we'll go and we pay some bucks and we will get the we'll take it as a service. But whatever you said, like definitely it's a completely new change. Definitely we need to learn in and around of the platform. Instead of taking the service from them, we need to understand what exactly that platform is. And definitely it's a new kind of social marketing which we can explore. And yeah, definitely it will bring a success to everyone, I believe. Thank you. Definitely we will follow this one, and we will also try to implement a few changes here and there. And thank you so much, Mike, for this one.
I appreciate that. Let me leave you with a quick comment here. The definition of economics for everybody out there is satisfying unlimited wants and needs with limited resources. So that's a summary to a better stated what you said. I appreciate it.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. And again, Mike have provided the details on how you can reach him if in case you wanted to connect with them like offline or maybe after the actual discussion. So just you can simply type his name on LinkedIn and then send him a message. He'll definitely respond as soon as he can. All
You
right?
can even
So,
Google me. You see a lot of videos. Go ahead. Under the main speaker, the good one here.
that is perfect. Again, thank you so much. So if you have further questions, just put it on the chat and Mike will be able to answer it for us. All right, so we'll move to the next also exciting topic for today. So it's titled What is Being an Entrepreneur? So like many of us wanted to do so because they said being an entrepreneur will make you like earn or have good income, source of money, or like even make you buy your dream car, something like that. So with this topic, our speaker, which is Sapna Agrawal, will help us determine what are the skills required, like when do you really become entrepreneur? And we'll answer those questions that will help us and guide us through this we can call it a position in life, something like that. Sapna is an academician and founder of I Big Wonder. So that's a YouTube channel. She has qualitative experience of more than 22 years at higher echelon for knowledge management, children education, training and development, child psychology, science, and its spiritual understanding. So I will not say more. And I'll give you the floor, Sapna. Take over, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this platform. It has been wonderful listening to Mike. And okay, so let's begin with the topic because we have a specific time of 30 minutes. And I have to talk about something very difficult, which people, though this generation, the 21st century children, the youth, they find it pretty easy. And most of them, they want to come up as startups. Most of them, they want to have their own certain ideas floating, and they talk about money. They want to disrupt the market, like that kind of a thing. But before that, I'll begin with something. When we were small, let me take you to the childhood memories. Many children have these memories. So when a child is very small, parents put all the efforts to groom the child and give the right kind of quality education. And when they ask a common question to the child, the visitors, the guests, the friends, the family, even the parents, what are you going to become when you grow up? And the child has so many answers. Maybe the child says a footballer at points of time. The child might say, I want to have, I want to become an officer. I want to join military. I want to do so many things, the other things. But the moment the child says, how many times have you heard a child saying, I want to have my own business? I've yet to hear. I've met thousands and thousands of children in my journey of these 22 years, and I keep meeting them every single day. I ask a parent, I'm talking about small children, what do you want to become when you grow up? And I yet have to see somebody saying, second answer, my father has a business and I want to carry it forward. No, they still, even if they are from the generation of a business family, they would still like to become something else. So nobody talks, nobody understands probably what business is. Even, when I was very small, I remember my peer group and everybody, we were told that, you have to study very well so that you get good jobs and you get settled. And I felt, what is being unsettled? It is only the dust settles. I used to think that, it's only dust which settles. Why should I get settled? There's so much to do. There's so much to grow. So I remember my father asking me a question that, he never said, what would you like to be when you grow up? He said that, I would really appreciate when you grow up and you become a doctor. Well, I am a doctor, but I'm a doctor of education. He wanted me to be a doctor of medicine. So, there's always a gap in between. Now, let us understand, why am I talking about being an entrepreneur? When there are so many other things to do as well. Why do I specify? And why do I address the youth and the school children? Of course, the variety of audience. In case the parents and educators are listening to me, I think it would definitely matter a lot to each one of us. Now, when it is business, entrepreneurship comes in different terms. People call it business. People call it proprietary work. People call it a small little work. So there are variety of ventures, variety of entrepreneurship, variety of businesses which people can do. During my talk, little later from now, I would be addressing and I would be talking about it. But when the moment for me, I have understood it this way, business means productivity. Business does not only mean to earn money. Business means you ideate something. You empathize with something, you ideate something, you discuss with people. There's a lot of design thinking going into it, right? So there's a thought process. And then you try to make a prototype. You try it. If it works, it's bingo. If it doesn't work, who shares the entire sad story? It's you who started it. So there are a lot of skills when we are talking about being a businessman. I understand the risk is also being I come from a military background. My husband is an army officer, and he has served during the time when Kargil war was happening in India. So there are a lot of risks and challenges in every single profession. But when it is business, let's not underestimate it. There are a lot of risks and challenges. So to begin with, let's understand business means productivity. It's not only about the person who's going to do it. It's about the team which is going to get built over a period of time. It is about the people, how you handle it. It is about your idea. It could be a service or a product. And how do you plan to scale it year after year, gradually from the scratch, right? Now, when it is business, there are a couple of skills which can be taught to a child right from the beginning. We call it life skills: decision making, problem solving, observation, helping others, forming a team, being a leader at times, being a follower at the other times. It's not always being a leader. It's also to be able to follow the right kind of things. That is observation. So we start grooming and teaching children right from their schools. And I say, yes, that is from their schools, from their early, not exactly early education, from the mid education or sometime else. A little later from now, I'll also be talking about something called as vocational skill or vocational education. So there are countries where the vocational education and vocational skills are very high. What have they whatever they sow, they reap. Whatever we sow, we reap. That is how it happens. So I'm going to talk about it a little later. So so I've all set points, how I talk point after point, and how I link what is being an entrepreneur, what are these skills, when should we start, how are they going to help us, how are they going to help many of us put together and society at large, right? So when it's being an entrepreneur, number one, it's very important that this person who plans to do it has a lot of ideas coming into it, right? Even Thomas Alva Edison, when he invented the electric bulb, probably, a lot of people say, I haven't met him in person. Many of us haven't met him in person. But we say, he must have missed 1,000 ideas and probably this was 1,001. Or maybe he missed 9,000 ideas and this was the 9,001 idea. So the person who thinks business, the person who thinks being an entrepreneur has a lot of ideas coming. Starts visualizing, not from the end, probably, at a certain point of time, I'm going to take it over there. From there, it might take another flight. So, the person is thinking at various points of time. And a person who's thinking is definitely doing something progressive. I'm not talking about building castles in air without anything. I'm talking about an idea, right? An idea. Then you start discussing. So that means this person who has business on mind definitely has to have good communication skills. Unless you communicate your idea to the others, unless you make it reach to the others, right? It could be again a product or a service. How do you expect others to buy it? How do you expect others to, we've been watching Shark Tanks, and Shark Tank is something, it has changed my thought process. I have observed over there, people don't invest only in your business. People invest even in people. People invest in your ideas. People invest seeing your courage. People invest in you, seeing that what is your vision with that product or with your service which you're offering, right? So there are a variety of ways which you can do it. But a word of caution over here. Every single person cannot just say, I don't want to work. I don't want a job. I don't want to work under somebody. I want to be independent. And just because I want to be independent, I want to have a business. That's not the right way at all, right? That's not the right way. Because when it is business, maybe initially you start without any money, but gradually you will require money. That means a person who thinks about being an entrepreneur or a person who thinks about being a businessman also needs to understand how the money is going to come, right? And how the money is going to be spent, or how the money is gradually going to grow. That is what I talk about productivity, right? We just heard that we cannot make money. It's only government who makes money, right? But we can make our product or our service produce a lot of money, bring a lot of money, right? People start coming in, people start liking it. I remember a person, very simple. One of the days in one of the vegetable market in my city, there were a couple of vegetable vendors, right? So they were all selling different vegetables, ladyfingers, peas, potatoes, tomatoes, and I saw a vegetable vendor. All what he was doing, garlic and a couple of other things. So this vegetable vendor started. He just peeled the peas and took out those nice pea seeds, right? And in a similar way, peeled the garlic pods and had some garlic over there. So he said, people were approaching. So he said, I'm just quoting an example. So what is the price? Okay. 100 rupees I'm talking in the currency in India, so 100 rupees a kg is this particular vegetable. But when you purchase this, the peeled piece, he sells it for 120 rupees. People found a lot of sense into it. We'll have to take it home. We'll have to waste a lot of time. Okay. And this person, now this was process. This was a process what he was trying to earn from. A very simple idea. He wasn't probably qualified. He must have been a little bit of literate, right? But he wasn't much qualified, but he had an idea in mind how to earn sitting in the same vegetable market more than the others, right? So he just started investing a little bit of his time in his idea, and he could get the outcome. But this doesn't mean that he has become an entrepreneur. He's still a small vendor. So at this point of time, I must also share a variety of entrepreneurship ideas. So there are some small scale businesses, very, very small scale, just around you. So there could be a grocery shop, I'm talking about small businesses. There could be a milk vendor, there could be a vegetable vendor, there could be a person who irons clothes. So all these businesses are done to support the family. These people don't want to scale it. But in case they have an idea and they want to scale and they can bring in the right money, even these ideas can be scaled up. Then there are businesses like large companies where a lot of people are hired. There is a finite cycle into it, right? Then you have heard about something called as startups. Oh yes, so many people are talking about startups now. And so much funding is coming into startups. People are ready to invest, especially with the edtechs, education techs. During the pandemic, a lot of things have happened this way, right? So I call it a scalable startup. So you have to ideate a scalable startup. Okay, this is my product or this is my service, and it can be scaled. When I say scaled, it can reach to that many thousand, lakhs, million, many, those kind of things. Then there is something called as international entrepreneurship, I don't even only talk about export and import business. I talk about a certain country having more demand but lesser supply of a certain things, and you plan to do that, right? So that kind of a thing. Okay, let's talk something more about social entrepreneurship. So there are so many problems around us. Can that be turned into business? Yes. Not all charity works, right? So you can even think of earning money from charity and helping other people, right? So there are problems. There are a lot of problems all around us, but we have to just identify that how we can give a solution to this problem, and how we can have more people in the team. We benefit them, we help them, and we also bring a lot of money, and so that that business becomes a self-sustainable business. Initially, you might have got investment from somewhere else, but then it starts sustaining itself. Then we talk about environment, so many problems, pollution, lakes getting dried up, you think about it, environment, and there's so many things around you, right? So there can be entrepreneurship around that. That can you bring new technology? Can you bring new technology to agriculture? Can you bring new technology to help pollution, clear water? There's so many things over there. So think about it. So as an entrepreneur, there are a variety of ways. An innovative idea which nobody has done, probably nobody has thought of, but you have that idea and you visualize how to, you have a plan in mind along with it. You also have a vision along with it that can also be turned into a business. And then what about imitative entrepreneurship? Yeah, so many people have become successful by doing XYZ thing. YouTube is a great example. There are so many YouTubers who are doing great things. Why don't I start one? And then you plan to do it, but then there is a lot of effort. What we see is a success story. We haven't seen all these years of toil and hard work into it. So be prepared to also, yes, you can shorten it because you learn from the others' experiences, but that does not mean it is not going to happen to you. Those failures, those challenges, those years of investment is going to happen, because I just quoted the example of YouTube. So you see success stories and you feel things can happen overnight. But when you saw that, it was that night probably the successful night. Previous to that, there were so many other nights when the success wasn't happening to that person, right? So when I say who can be an entrepreneur, any single person can be an entrepreneur. There's no gender bias. There's no age criteria in it. So there are children who have thought about it and they suggested their ideas and they're doing wonder works, right? In fact, there are a lot of, when I say a scalable startup, you must have heard about Ola, Uber, you must have heard about Facebook, right? You must have heard about Airbnb, umpteen examples, which was just ideas with the use of technology. They scaled it up to unimaginable heights, right? So when it is, okay, now, I would, at this point of time, I would like to talk about the role because, I pointed out that during my talk, I'll be addressing these things. Why school children, why schools, why educational institutes, and how can they create this entrepreneurial mindset and why is it important? So I talked about vocational skills. Vocational skills are fantastic ideas. Now, what is a vocation? They are those small skills, artisans, carpenters, things just happening around you. So these experiences, whenever a child gets an experience, gains some experience by doing certain things on their own, seeing something very closely, this child is getting experience, this child retains a lot of knowledge and information, and this child's mind also starts processing, right? And by the time the child from different grades in different schools in different countries, for me, it could be around any time after 12 years of age, generally around 12 years of age, between 12 and 18, if a child experiences more than minimum 6, more than that, as many vocational skills happening around, experiencing it, trying it at hand, going into internship for a smaller period, 10, 12 days into it, and, coming out with a mindset, it doesn't suit me. I don't see any idea into it. I remember when we were in school, something as interesting as candle making, furniture making, carpentry was being taught to us. But probably nobody told us that, these are the skills. It was being introduced to us as a subject. I don't know, sometimes when it is a subject And when you are evaluated or assessed, and then you have to complete a project and given, we lose interest. Who wants to complete a project? Oh my God, another project. It doesn't work that. I wish had somebody told me that, it's a skill, and probably when you grow up, and when nothing works, probably this one skill of yours can be very, very helpful. During pandemic, I have seen regular homes getting converted into small businesses, women cooking and promoting their, to support their family, and selling those products, those homemade goodies, those finger foods, confectionery, so many other things I've seen all around myself. So what was the skill? Did they learn it? Were they growing as entrepreneurs? Were their minds thinking? No, it was only a need. And that need suggested them that this is the skill you have. You've seen your mother doing it. You've seen your grandmother doing it. You can do it. You cook well. You do this thing, something very well. Why can't we just sell it to, make a little bit more and sell it to the others, and you gain profit out of it, which helps you, which gives you a lot of satisfaction. In fact, a lot of businesses do begin just to get satisfied. I get that satisfaction because I like to do this work. And when people appreciate, that's all I want. I do not want money. To begin with, it's okay, but that cannot be an idea for whole life. You cannot be just okay when people appreciate. It doesn't fill your stomach. Right, and it doesn't even fill the stuff. I mean, how are you going to procure the more material for the same kind of appreciation to keep getting always? So it's always a good idea to have an idea which brings some money initially, and then you can even support so many other people when you're being an entrepreneur. Another thing, when in school education we are creating only job seekers, I think there's a big challenge. So the mind stop thinking. They are just robotically studying, producing, or maybe puking, may I say, and just creating results where they have a target. I have to get a job. That's the end of it. In my purview, such kind of people may not be very good employees, because they just work for a certain amount of salary. They don't get that, they feel dissatisfied. Somebody, they do not have much of tolerance even, probably. While a businessman has a lot of tolerance. Oh, what's good you've done for us? I mean, this product of yours was useless, but the other person liked it. We as a businessman, or as a businesswoman, or as a business person, we are constantly ready to accept a feedback. We grow a lot of tolerance. We have variety of ideas to improve it constantly, to create that satisfaction and happiness, and constantly keep growing as well. So there's a lot of, tolerance. I mean, that's a better word, right? So there's a lot of tolerance from all around whatever is happening. People come and say, then because you're selling a product or you're selling a service, you become very humble, and a lot of humility comes into yourself, because anybody can be a client. Today, normally I've seen, that is my observation. Yours can be something different, but I have seen, businessmen would not get into any kind of an argument with a customer. You don't like it, it's okay. Thank you for the feedback. Maybe somebody else likes it, right? So normally they would not get into an argument. So it's perfectly fine. And they would like to build better relationships with the others, right? Because any kind of relationship can be encashed at any point of time. So there's no point fighting. There's no point. While when in your job, especially a white collar job, there's an air about yourself, and you say, who do you think you're talking to? But that's a very short-lived. There's a very short-lived thing. Right? Whenever you get into a job, there is a life cycle to it. And after that, what do? Are you dependent on somebody else? Or at that point of time, you start thinking, I think that's too late. That'll be too late to take risks. Not everybody can take risks at that age. So it's always a good idea. And that is why I talk about vocational skills. That is why, there are a lot of Korean companies. What they do is they, after high school, the students, they get into various vocations. And each one of us has something Korean around in their house. It could be any product. Why? Because there are so many people working over there. There is so much of productivity which is happening. The other countries are also sending that, because there's mass production happening over there. They could create that kind of a thing. Well, maybe sometime else in some other talk I can talk about it a little more. But today's talk, I really wanted to emphasize on why one should have an entrepreneurial mindset. Even if you go into a job, you will create more productivity even for your job, right? Wherever, for your employer, for the services which you are providing, for the work which you are doing, because that comes from within. There is always a process which thinks about risks and challenges. There is a mind which thinks about opportunities. There is a mind which thinks about progressive things. There is a mind which is thinking about productivity. There is a mind which is thinking about growth. And that is what is being an entrepreneur. I mean, when it comes from an educationist, this kind of a topic, I'm sure some of you in the beginning might have been thinking that, oh, she's been teaching children. She's been heading schools in the position of leadership. And she talks about yes, I always had that mind. Even I am in some way or the other an entrepreneur. I've always been trying a lot of things initially to satisfy myself and then to scale it as well. There are people who would progress into a job, into a hierarchy to a certain level, and then what happens? Then it stagnates. But for me, it never stagnated. There was always something else. So, when you have a growth mindset, you continuously keep on growing. It's not, it's like, biologically, we cannot grow tall after a certain age. You can grow broad, which shouldn't happen, but you can grow from here, right? So this grows constantly. Being from a science background, I used to observe trees, and I used to think that, tree always keeps on growing. Even if it sheds, next year it grows again. It sheds, it breaks, somebody cuts, it grows again. So, there is a lot of, this tree knows how to mind its own business. So it's not bothered about anybody else's business, just knows how to mind that business. So now I have a lot to talk about this particular topic. I'm very excited about post Shark Tanks and post a lot of case studies. I personally felt that this mindset should get initiated very early. And in case there are any questions, in case you find some sense what I talk, in case you agree to me, in case you go back, those who are of my age or maybe educators, you saw that, yes, when we were very small, nobody talked about that. When I grow up, what do you want to become? I want to become a businessman. We haven't heard it. So those who relate to it, and in case you have certain questions, and if you feel I'll be able to answer certain questions, please go ahead.
I just have one comment before I have to go to get to another meeting. Great talk. And to define it for everybody out there, one of the things I've spent time doing, and for everybody out there too, look at EQ, emotional quotient. Right. We talk about IQ so much of the time, and we all know really smart, obnoxious people who can't get anything done. Yet we know people who maybe don't quite have the IQ that get things done. Thank you very much. You reminding me that EQ is very important. The difference is EQ rated from 1 to 10, as you know, way better than I do, can be raised by practicing certain things. Mm-hmm. So thank you very much for everybody out there. I do have to jam. Great talk.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. We'll get connected on our social media somewhere else. And those who want to reach me, do get connected with me on my YouTube. And I call myself I Big Wonder.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. So I guess Mike has to go for the next meeting.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
That's perfect. Well, Savna, again, thank you so much. That's as Srini was saying, it was very practical and insightful, and he was thanking you for that. That's really perfect. I agree with you on so many things, but to point out, one is with the educational system, which only teaches students to find job after their education, and that's it. So not really a wide option of like what do you want to do, something like that, because not everyone is good in academics, something like that. That is really perfect. And also one thing I have observed is that you're a good entrepreneur when you know when to back off. something like that, because you try keep pushing forward, and then you just end up going back to zero. So that's my observation. If anyone else would like to ask or connect to our speaker, please raise your hand or unmute your mic. She is attending questions right now.
Hi, this is Rajni. I don't have a question, but I really appreciate all the information that you just shared, because, these are the thoughts we normally get as parents. Their kids are going to school, they're just going to find a job. There's probably something else they could do. I really liked your idea of vocational training. You mentioned in South Korea, they send their kids for a couple of years or something after school. I actually like that idea. Maybe we could find time, like summers or something, where they have ample amount of time where they could focus on one thing that they could probably learn that could be useful for them.
Yeah.
So loved your
Thank you.
talk.
Thank you, Rajni. That's so kind. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I think Phil John. Okay, somebody else.
Yes. Is there anyone who would like to add?
Oh, this is Sheetal. I just wanted to say thank you so much. Both speakers were incredibly informative, very powerful. I really appreciate it. And I agree with Rajini about the vocational training. And of course, the speaker's idea. I saw that in Rudolf Steiner, the Waldorf schools, the hands are used a lot more than memory, not even memory, sorry, like the phonics and all that stuff for young kids. They actually have them work with clay and build tools, art, create their own textbooks. And I could see that the brain was being, the left and right both were being trained in the right direction instead of just the STEM technology, which is what most of us focus on right now. So that was a very good insight that you brought. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheetal. Thank you so much for liking and appreciating. That's great.
That is really good. Thank you so much.
That's yeah. So I mean, that's really really nice. That there are parents and those who like the whole idea. I'm sure years ahead we'll have great entrepreneurs coming up. Those who will be serving themselves, their families, their nation, and of course the others as well. So we'll have better employees, better business minds, and better sharks. Do reach me at iBigWonder on my YouTube. That'll be great.
Certainly. Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
That'll be perfect. So the one who will be able to, those who would review this on our YouTube channel as well, will be able to reach you out with this very insightful topic for today. And also for everyone, just so you know, we also have our youth webinars. So please do visit our website to support our youth and the younger youth group and doing this webinars as well. All right. So that would be perfect. So if there are two very inspiring and insightful topics for today. If you wish to learn more and have more of this webinars, please be with us again the same time again next week, Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. So we're afraid that we have to close the session for today, but again, thank you so much for being with us and also with those who are watching us live. Thank you so much for the effort and knowledge. And as always, take care, everyone. You have a great day.